Paul Carcaterra joins us, ESPN Lacrosse analyst. We have this team in the Capital Region, the University of Albany. It's pretty darn good. They're number 2 in the country. Yeah. Not only did they win at Syracuse last Saturday, they won 15-3, and now they got Drexel coming in tomorrow at noon for the home opener at Casey Stadium. And Paul joins us here for a few minutes on Big Board Sports, 104.5 a Team ESPN Radio. Paul, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're good.
Great,
man.
Paul. Good
Appreciate
to hear from
it.
you, man.
Not that I don't think anybody's surprised that they won the game, but are you surprised at how they dominated Syracuse at the Dome last Saturday?
I am. I mean, they've only beaten Cuse one other time up there in the Dome, and that was when they had Lyle and Miles Thompson. It was by a goal or two. Look, at the end of the day, Syracuse week one won handedly with a score of 21-4. So when you think about where they were in regards to just their flow and offensive prowess, I mean, mind you, it was Binghamton, but Binghamton's a better program than it was in the past. Kevin McEwen has done a really nice job down there. They went to the America East Final against Albany last year. So when you win a game 21-4, and then the next week you score 3 goals, of course I was surprised by the outcome. I was also surprised in regards to the type of beating that Syracuse took in the Dome. I mean, I played at Syracuse for 4 years, and playing in the Dome and having that home field advantage, it means something. And when you lose by a score of 15-3, I mean, that's the worst loss I can remember. And, you know, I've been following this program for a long time, since the early 80s as a kid, when some guys from my hometown were playing up at Syracuse. I was watching them week in and week out. So, yeah, I was a little floored by the outcome. But, look, this Albany team, you people in the Capital Region, you need to get out to all the games you can. Scott Marr has done an amazing job with this program. I think they're here to stay, but this could be like the special year because they have all the pieces to the puzzle. So don't take it for granted. Get behind the Danes. They are the funnest team in college lacrosse to watch. And I think 2018 is a special season in the midst.
Now, when you say special, Paul, is this a team that could win a national championship?
I think so. You know, and there's a couple reasons why. One, I don't feel like there's like an outlier team that is so head and shoulders above the rest. You know, this isn't a year where there's a 2006 University of Virginia team or a 2009 Syracuse team. You know, the Duke teams of 13 and 14 that had Jordan Wolfe, they were really, really hard to beat. When I look at the landscape of college lacrosse right now, there's like 5 or 6 teams that you could see winning it all. Albany's certainly one of them. And what Albany has in their favor is a couple things. T.D. Ireland, who's their face-off specialist, is probably the second best face-off specialist in the country behind Trevor Baptiste, who might be the best of all time at that position. So he's not better than Baptiste, but he's probably number 2. I think it all comes down to seedings. You probably don't want to see Denver until the national championship. You don't want to be in a bracket with them where you have to play the Denver offense in terms of what they do all fall. Matches up really well probably against Albany's defense. Albany's defense is much improved, but Denver's the one team that I think Albany doesn't match up great against, and you'd want Denver off of 2 days rest rather than a week, if that makes sense. So stay away from Denver, but I do feel like Albany certainly has the pieces of the puzzle. And offensively, they're a bear to deal with because of their quick strike ability. They have the best player in the country in Connor Fields. I thought he was the best player last year. I thought he should have won the Tewaaraton Trophy, which is handed to the best player in college lacrosse. And he's right where he wants to be because now we're going to talk about this freshman, Dahoga Nanako, who is probably the most skilled freshman I've seen. I know this sounds nuts, but maybe ever. And I'm not saying he's going to end up being the best player ever. I mean, to be the best player at that school, you'd have to surpass Lyle Thompson, who I thought was one of the top 4 players. He was on my Mount Rushmore of college lacrosse players. So I don't know where his ceiling is, but I could tell you, as an incoming freshman, this kid is as good as any incoming freshman I've ever seen. He's a freshman, and he's a pro lacrosse player already.
Paul Carcaterra with us here on Big Board Sports 104.5, the Team ESPN Radio. You know his credentials by now. He mentioned it, played at Syracuse, won a national title there, was an All-American as well in the 90s, and he's been good to us on this program, always breaking down the UAlbany lacrosse program for us. Paul, I want to ask you about Nanticoke, because to me, who, I'm not going to proclaim to be the most knowledgeable guy when it comes to the sport of lacrosse, but when I look at Connor Fields and when I look at Lyle Thompson, Dahoga is just built differently. He just kind of looks different than any other kind of skilled lacrosse player I've watched before. What is it about how he's able to use his body that makes him so difficult?
That's a great point. Look, skill-wise, he's masterful. His hands, his stick skills, his ability to be creative when the ball's in his stick is up there with anyone in college lacrosse already, and he's only a freshman. His size is a serious issue for defenders. He's 230 pounds. He's probably not even 6 feet tall. He's probably 5'11", 230 pounds. Look, I've never heard of a situation where Cascade Lacrosse, which creates the helmets for all these college teams, had to custom make a helmet for a player, but his head is so big that he was wearing a hockey box lacrosse helmet in the fall because they didn't have a helmet that could fit him. So his neck, his head, his shoulders, he's like a bowling ball with skill. Tyson Bomberry is a really good defender. He was playing good defense on Nanticoke last week, but it didn't matter. He still scored 5 goals because he's able to get up in your body, and you make the smallest mistake in terms of just your body positioning. He's just so big that he just has you where he wants you. He brings you up above goal line extended. You could be playing good defense on him. You can't push him out because he's so strong. He has a low center of gravity. And then he pulls off some shot with no angle. So with Connor Fields on the left and Dahoga Nanticoke on the right, I just don't see how teams are going to be able to stop these guys, because there's going to be situations where teams will put their top defender on Nanticoke, depending on the size of their top defender and the matchup. And then you have Connor Fields, who I think is the best player in college lacrosse, potentially going against opposing team's second defender. He will beat those guys like a drum.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Paul. It's going to be fun to watch this team. And
Scotty Marr's ready to strangle the media in Albany with all the national title talk.
Yeah, I know. And
he's had enough. He's had enough already.
I think so, Paul. Is it going to be one string of blowouts after like Drexel comes in here on Saturday? How bad's that going to be?
Forget it. It's blowtorch. They will blowtorch Drexel. They will blowtorch every team in the America East. There's 2 games on the schedule that create some issues. It's Maryland and it's Yale. Yale lost to Villanova last week, but Yale's a really good team. It's probably their best team since they've had since 1990 when they went to the Final Four with John Reese, who was the all-time greatest player in Yale history. Maryland, defending national champions, they lost a lot from a year ago. They're certainly beatable. But yeah, this is going to be tough, man. Like I think the biggest struggle that Scott Marr has is dealing with the media and the national championship talk, because let's face it, this program has done everything other than go to championship weekend. So as much as it hurts, and Scott Marr is one of my closest friends. I love the guy. He's from my hometown. I have a really good relationship with him. He's the salt of the earth. He's a guy that I would want to play for tomorrow. But let's be honest. I mean, it is kind of like Final Four or bust based on everything they've done and the preseason type of hype that they had, and then they come out of the gates and beat Syracuse, who has more national titles than any school since the national championships wasn't, awarded just to the best player, where there was a tournament since 1972. Cuse has 11. They blew them out 15-3. So I think he's got to deal with the media. He's got to deal with the expectations of his team. He also has to deal with some guys getting nicked up along the road that people just expect them to beat everyone handedly. But, there's struggling seasons. There's the grind of these practices, and when you're blowtorching team after team, when you get into the America East, how do you keep your team's focus? It's a lot. But I think this is something that Scott Marr, in a weird way, should want, right? Because what's the alternative?
Right.
Stink?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, this is a good problem to have for Scott Marr. Don't feel bad for him.
No, we don't.
He's having fun, man. This guy likes to have fun.
He does.
He just probably just doesn't want to hear. He doesn't want to hear too much of national championship talk, and not talking for him, but knowing him so well, like I do. I just don't think he wants to put pressure on his kids. I think he wants his kids to have fun and keep playing the way that they are, and not to worry about, like, okay, you got to get to the national championship.
Yeah, and especially since there's only the second game of the season and the home opener. It is a little bit early to start jumping all over that. But when you see a 15-3 final at Syracuse, you go, wow, they are really that good.
Yeah, they are. And look, they had a couple guys that weren't playing, too. I mean, they had some injuries. I know Justin Zellen, one of their long-stick midfielders, has been out for a little bit. They've been a little nicked up, and they did it without some of the other guys putting up big numbers. I mean, Connor Fields had 2 goals and 2 assists. Right. That's like a pedestrian day for him. He did not have big numbers. I was really impressed with the way that he was distributing the ball. Some of his creativity was awesome. He could have easily walked out of there with 8 points if things went another way for him. Nanakoke had the 5 goals, but like Justin Ray, who's a really good scorer, he didn't do much. Kyle McClancy, who's one of the top midfielders in the nation, he was quiet. And you heard Scott Marr after the game, like, I don't even think he thinks his offense clicked the way that they're capable of. So, like, what you saw at the Dome wasn't even the best Albany you've seen.
Scary.
That is scary. Hey, Paul, appreciate a few minutes. I'm sure you'll be in touch with Coach Marr, but if not, we'll definitely.
I'm actually going to see him today. I'm calling the UNC Hopkins game down in Baltimore.
Oh.
Coming down here to watch his son Kyle play. I don't think he rarely gets to see his kids play, so I think he's on a plane and back to watch the game, and then obviously get his boys ready for Drexel.
Paul, measure the current length of the mullet, because it's going to be a lot longer by the end of this season, Scotty says.
Who's do you like better, Barry Melrose or Scott Marr?
Melrose has him right now, but Scotty's got time to catch him.
He needs some work, though.
Continue to grow it?
Oh, yeah. He says he's not cutting it.
He's not cutting it, and that's fine, because if he's going to not cut it, that's good, because it needs some work right now. He needs to let that thing. If he's going to go down that road, leave it go. It needs a little bit of work.
Do you think he trims up the top? Should he go business in the front, party in the back, or just let it all go?
I think it might just all go.
All go.
Yeah.
All go.
All right, Jen.
All right, Paul.
Have a good one.
I see you, man. That's good stuff, Paul.